I don't know why we have to be bound by a one-China policy.
In those words, President Donald Trump, the leader of the free world, is walking a highly sensitive diplomatic tightrope. Not to be confused with China's One China principle or even the One Child policy, the One China policy is Washington's diplomatic acknowledgement that the People's Republic of China is the one and only Chinese government. In other words, the US recognizes and has formal ties with officials in Beijing rather than those in Taiwan. For 40 years, this fine balancing act of diplomacy has held steady, but then on December 2nd, 2016, a single phone call threatened to change everything, when then President-elect Donald Trump spoke for just a few minutes to Taiwan's President Tsai Ing-wen.
4 relatively quiet years of Sino-US relations was suddenly thrown into the spotlight. The One China policy can be traced back to 1949 and the end of the Chinese Civil War. The defeated nationalists retreated to Taiwan while the communists began ruling the mainland. Both claimed to represent all of China.
Washington officially backed the Republicans, recognizing officials in Taiwan as China's true government. But then in 1972, all that changed. Towards the end of the Vietnam War, Richard Nixon became the first US president to ever visit the People's Republic of China. His visit ended 25 years of hostilities, and as well as opening up lucrative trade deals, it also swung a significant pendulum in the Cold War. It helped place China's communists on friendly terms and thus put more pressure on the communists in the Soviet Union.
But in order to secure diplomatic relations, Beijing insisted Washington had to break official ties with Taiwan.
7 years of negotiations later, in 1979, President Jimmy Carter closed the US Embassy in Taipei and formally recognized the Communist Party in Beijing as the one and only party governing over China. Although now in place, the one-party policy didn't end Washington's relationship with Taiwan. In 1979, the US enacted the Taiwan Relations Act, setting up non-diplomatic relations and promising to help the island defend itself from outside aggression. The act also meant trade between the two could continue, and to the annoyance of Beijing, Washington has been selling arms to Taiwan ever since. As for the rest of the world, most countries did the same as the US, recognizing Beijing as the official government of China while keeping informal relations with Taiwan. A few countries, especially in Africa and Central Asia, only recognize Beijing, while fewer still only recognize Taiwan as China's official government.
Despite its diplomatic isolation, Taiwan has prospered. It now is the 5th largest economy in Asia, with a GDP close to $530 billion. Still, that's nothing compared to China's GDP of $11 trillion and their trade relationship with the US.
That's worth over $650 billion a year, which is why so many analysts are worried about President Trump's seemingly nonchalant attitude when it comes to Washington's One China policy.
Still watching? Perfect. Click here to watch another great video from CNBC International. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching.